And welcome to the Disciples of Atheist Jesus podcast number 4. Today we're going to call it Secular Saturday, and today we're going to talk about LGBTQ issues and issues that are related to such. I have my lovely co-host Jen, who's assaulting a cat.
I'm not assaulting the cat. He wants out. He cries when he wants out, and he cries when he wants in.
She's assaulting, so she's holding the cat hostage. And I
Oh,
have
no.
and I have one half of Atheist Jesus. Of Jesus, my Lord and Gardener. I have Gary.
Hello, everybody. My name is Gary, and I am also one of the admins of Atheist Jesus.
Jesus. So I figured the first thing I wanted to just throw out there to talk about, just the the now kind of shifting, the shifting of the Catholic Church, where you have Pope Francis. He was saying, just love all of, just love all of God's people, and I don't know if you guys heard this. I tried to send out links, but I believe it's Cardinal Burke, who's who's over the largest American canon law, or the largest canon law period. He's American, who's pretty damn close to getting excommunicated because in a recent summit that the Pope, announced, Burke just outright said he's not going to do whatever the Pope says in regards to divorce or homosexuality, saying that if anyone has if he cannot recognize homosexuality and homosexual attraction as immoral and the sanctity of marriage, then he needs to either get with the church or get out if he can't accept those things. To which the Pope's response is just kind of like, or you can get the fuck out. But I was curious at what you guys thought about it, because Pope Francis has actually been one of the most progressive popes in regards to those two issues that the Catholic Church has seen in a while. Gary.
Okay, well, I've spoken on this issue before, well, it's not spoken or posted or whatever you want to call it. I was raised Catholic, and the Catholic Church has always been all about how much control they can keep, how much power they can accumulate, and how many people they can get into their faith. This is just looking at my entire childhood in a hindsight. So I don't hate the Pope or anything like that, because that's just stupid. He's another man. But I see it as like a huge PR move by the Catholic Church when they put him in there, and they basically have him saying what the entire community that's outside of Catholicism would like to hear. Love everybody, and everybody's welcome, and that kind of thing. But it's not like he suddenly threw away the notion that homosexuality is a sin, or that he suddenly threw away the notion that those people would not, suffer for eternity. There was a troll post last year that somebody had started circulating that said that the Pope had spoken about atheists, and that atheists would be forgiven by God as long as they were good people. He never said that. So if anybody's heard that, that's incorrect. He never said that at all. The Catholic faith still hinges on the belief that if you do not follow that faith, quote unquote, the one true faith, then you will not see paradise. And it's basically the same doctrine as every faith out there that goes by that heaven and hell notion. Unless you follow their faith, you're not going to see paradise at the end. You're going to spend eternity in whatever their version of hell is. So, like I said, the new Pope, I just see him, he says a lot of cool stuff. he knows a lot of good buzzwords. He knows what people want to hear, and that's what the Catholic Church wanted right now, especially when their organization's crumbling. Some people have kind of like taken it to the other, and they're like, well, if he really means it, why doesn't he, melt down all the gold in the Vatican and, put it out there amongst all the poor people? But that's kind of a valid point. I mean, if you're supposed to go by the teachings of Jesus in the Bible and all that, it would be easier for a camel to pass through the eye of a needle and than for a rich man to enter heaven. I mean, let's face it, the Pope's rich. He doesn't have to worry. Yeah, he could put on the facade of humility and live as humble as he wants to, but at the end of the day, he's never going to have to worry about not having a roof over his head. He's never going to have to worry about not being able to eat. So, I don't know. I just see it as a huge facade implemented by the Catholic Church to get more people's butts in the pews, as I like to say. But that's all I really have on that.
Jen, dear?
Yes, I agree with Gary. This is probably just a huge PR thing. At the same time, though, it seems like more and more of the members of the church, especially in America, are against the Pope. Like, there are whole churches that are now saying, no, we don't accept the Vatican and what it's saying, no, we don't accept this Pope, he's fake. I've seen some reports of churches, especially down the Bible Belt, claiming that this Pope is apparently the Antichrist and this is the end of days because the Antichrist has gotten control of the Vatican, which apparently is what it's supposed to do, world peace, turn everyone into love and happiness, and then fry all their asses. It's, again, reports from the
Very
Bible.
evil.
If let's say you're the head of this PR stunt, okay? You're not going to, first of all, you're not going to show every single member of the church your plan. You're not going to be like, hey, we're going to put this Pope in place and get people to really like us, and nobody's going to be opposed to it. You have to have opposition. You have to have the quote-unquote evil Catholics that are against the Pope because he wants peace for all and not only Catholics, and what's he doing? So they're not going to tell everybody that's their plan. But, and my grandmother was like major Catholic, and she used to have, she used to always tell us stories about, hey, so that's going to happen, the Antichrist will come, all that stuff, like you were saying, Jen. But that the Antichrist would take over somehow or whatever. We'll have chips in our bodies and all kinds of stuff. But I like I said earlier, I think it's just a huge PR stunt.
Anything else from you?
Yes, I really think that if it is a PR stunt, it is a damn good one. They are playing on their own mythology in hopes of attracting people back.
Don't say mythology. We're not trying to offend anyone.
They're playing on their own religion to get people back. It's like, oh, crap.
It's not a religion. It's the one true religion.
Fuck Jesus. Anyway, that's not offensive. Anyway, they're basically, from my point of view, this is what it looks like. It looks like, shit, we're losing members. We can't go back to the, well, let's reform and just say we're going to change a whole bunch of rules, because we did that once and it didn't do too much for us, so we can't do that again. Hey, this is what we know people are scared of. Let's make it happen. Let's get some old guy who probably doesn't know what's going on half the time. We're going to tell him that we need him to say this stuff, and people will love him.
Save us.
Well, it's not only that. Like, if you look at his history too, this is he did a huge 180 from his history with the Catholic Church. He wasn't this peace loving and stuff. Oh, love everybody except everybody. No, I mean, they could have. Who knows? Maybe they had a freaking casting call. Okay, let's have a Pope casting call. Which Pope looks the most humble and lenient? And you got this Woody Allen looking guy in there, who looks.
But does he talk to chairs?
Does he talk to chairs? This guy. You're thinking of Clint Eastwood.
Sorry,
wow.
I'm away.
Yeah. Okay. But that gosh, I lost my train of thought. Thanks, talking to Bears guy over there. I was totally going to say something else, and yeah.
You were saying that they have the Woody Allen looking guy over here.
They picked the most like, you know, let's be honest, they picked the most like humble looking Pope, because like look at the Pope before him. I mean, the guy looked like the Emperor from Star Wars.
Yes, yes.
Exactly.
Join the Christ side of the Force.
He always looked like he was, you know, ready to pull out a red lightsaber and start shooting people with lightning bolts. And he was a very popular Pope.
He used the Pope Mobile as the Death Star.
Just like any PR campaign, they have to have a face that people can relate to. Just like any good PR campaign, they gotta get a guy in there where people could be like, oh, he looks nice. Look, honey, isn't he nice looking? And I don't buy it for 1 second. And there's a lot of atheists that are like, oh, he's a nice guy and he's a good pope, and that's fine. You know, atheists, we don't follow any specific doctrine. There's no, oh, you know, atheist Jesus feels this way, so I should feel that way too. No, that's what I love about running the page. People have different opinions, and people will speak their different opinions, and I love it. But, you know, my personal opinion is they picked out a guy that the public could embrace, even though he's the head of a historically violent and power-hungry organization.
So basically, they took a evil van thing, slapped a bunch of teddy bears on it, and now they're trying to lure people in it with the promise of free candy.
Yeah, okay, great example. Look at the movie Dogma. Okay, George Carlin as the Cardinal, and they're sitting in the room.
George Carlin.
You know, one of the characters, I can't remember who it was, says something along the lines of, you know, just like the cigarette company, and he's like, oh, God, if only we had their numbers. You know, and they unveil the Buddy Christ statue because the Catholic Church has this image of, you know, it's archaic and this and that, so they bring out this new PR statue, Buddy Christ. I mean, that's, to me, the Pope is just a glorified Buddy Christ.
I'm going to step in here for a minute because I figure I should say something. I do agree. Like I said, as Jen said, he's a damn good PR person. But, and this is just because I grew up Episcopalian. The way my grandmother explained Episcopalians to me is, we'll follow the Pope until he does some shit we don't like, and then it's fuck the Pope.
Yeah, Episcopalians are basically diet Catholics.
Yeah, I mean it's pretty much it's pretty accurate. I have no issues with really too many people that have existed. I don't have too many issues other than my usual anti-theist issues with the Pope. But I mean, there's a part of me, and I do agree. You said looking at his history, there's a part of me that's like, this could be one of the best, and I say worst, and I'll explain in a minute, but one of the best and worst PR stunts ever done by the church in modern times. But I have yet to see exact evidence of that. There are signs pointing to it, but until he does something that we can exactly stick him for, you know, other than his general just looking shady shit. Because I mean, he did any religious head or religious figure looks shady to me. But I mean, it is a good PR stunt. You have the Pope on one hand saying I love everyone, and then you have the Catholic Church, the Vatican itself, or Vatican officials coming out and saying, no, we didn't say that. He didn't mean that. That's not how it was supposed to be interpreted. So I mean, from my view, it's pretty entertaining. It's a nice little play they have going on. Nice little show they got going on. Can't wait for the conclusion. But
well, maybe we should get back to the original point of this topic, which was LGBTQ. I think I set everybody off on a tangent, but I just wanted to touch on the fact that I believe, Jay, it was you saying that the Catholic Church is kind out and said this and that. Oh no, yeah, it was the Pope that's been saying this, and you think a cardinal.
Oh yeah, I was saying, yeah, I was talking about the Pope and the Cardinal going at it over that issue.
But bottom line, bottom line is they still see, like I said at the beginning, and it's in summation, bottom line is the Catholic Church still views homosexuals as living a sinful lifestyle. Ergo, if they don't give their lives to Christ, and they're able to quote-unquote redeem themselves by suddenly not being homosexual, then they'll be fine. That's still the underlying belief that the Catholic Church teaches. So
Agreed. I mean, the doctrine's the same. Regardless of what figurehead comes in power and whatever they say, the book's still there. It's on paper. It's been there for fucking how many centuries? Like, the doctrine's there. So unless they're going to do some more editing of the doctrine itself, it still stands as is. You know, the church's official position, if they stay true to what the church says, is, you know, they have to follow biblical text. Then the church's official position is.
it's not just the Catholic Church. There's a lot of people out there calling themselves gay Christians. that just completely like blows my mind. I mean, I understand if you really like the story of Jesus and you want to go by that, but I mean, even his disciples, or one of his disciples, wrote down how wrong homosexuality was, and this was a disciple that followed him around. And you can't go in the Bible and find anywhere specifically where it said Jesus spoke about this issue, and here's what he said. But still, one of his disciples still held the belief that it was incorrect and put it in the New Testament. So, if you're gonna, it goes back to the old saying, man. You can't cherry pick that book, but everybody does. Everybody cherry picks that book. Every single person. So, if I was working with a guy that was like, I'm gay and I live with my husband. That's cool. And then he was like, yeah, but we go to church over here and read the Bible. And I was like, what?
Well, I mean, you actually.
Phobia. What?
Well, excuse me. But you actually led me into what my next question was going to be, which is how you necessarily, and I guess you just let it be known, how you necessarily feel about, quote unquote, gay Christians, words that seemingly shouldn't go together. And I was going to ask that. It's because I've been running into them a lot lately, especially being where I am, like just inner city period. Like, there's a lot of people who, even the ones that are DL, but the ones that are out, are gay, but they still identify as Christian. Like, yesterday, just for an example, I got bitched out because a conversation came into class. It's just like talking about culture battle, because I have a teacher who's from India, and she's from a very heavy Hindu influence portion of India, but she's a devout Christian with white Jesus on her desk. And so they asked how that worked out, and she went under the assumption that all of us were Christians. And so she started pointing out classmates, and she's like, don't you accept Christ, and don't you accept Christ? And, of course, when she got to me, because there's 3 atheists in that class, but they all lied, but when she got to me, I didn't. And I got chewed out because he was saying that, if you just follow Christ, it'll accept me and I'm going to hell. And I was like, but to the Catholic Church, which is what he identified as, I told him, you are one of the fucking definitions of sin. You are a sin just by existence. And he was like, it doesn't matter, because I'm saved because I accept Jesus Christ. And then he said, you just said that you can't cherry pick the book, but he just stated that regardless of what his disciples said, his disciples could have said something to fit their own personal opinions, but Jesus Christ himself never stated such. And it goes back to what we talked about a few podcasts ago, of the following Christ but not following the religion. So I was curious what you and Jen thought about gay Christians, because that to me just threw me off. You can't sit here and say, again, you were talking about the cherry picking the book, like you can't sit here and say, it's like, no, I'm following this particular religion, this particular sect of religion that's spoken out against me and what they consider my kind, quote unquote, so many times, but still be the same thing they hate. Like
Okay, what you're meaning, and I'm sorry to cut you off there, but you were kind of right.
I was actually finna stop, so you perfect timing.
Yeah.
Perfect timing.
It's kind of, I mean, to me, it's kind of like if you had alien beings land on this planet and they started holding their own church about their savior, but their savior hates human beings. And just really like the message, so let's go to that church, but they hate human beings. It's in their doctrine. It's okay. That's just kind of how it strikes me. Hey, they can believe whatever they want. They could go to church all they want, but
Because, I mean, no one's going to stop you.
the fact is, it's right there in the book that the church teaches from that their lifestyle is quote-unquote a sin. So, I'm all for human rights. I'm all for freedom of religion, but that's just like cherry-picking times 100.
That's that new level of cherry picking. Jindir.
Yes. We have a comment.
Get down.
So a comment came in from one of our viewers, and it's on the Pope issue. He read something saying that the Pope was going to be bringing back exorcisms, because that's exactly what the world needs. And that he views the Pope as being one fucking big-ass nut job. Who is willing to allow in the space Martians, Baptist space Martians, and yeah, that's a thing, you can Google it. I don't know why it's a thing, but it's a thing. And he wants to try and make everyone one big church for his own greedy power.
I mean, that would work out a bit in his favor.
That's their point to begin with. Let's wipe everyone else out so we can be the one and only church, so we have absolute power. That hasn't worked for them in 2,000 years.
Earlier, I was raised Catholic, and that's really all
That's
I saw.
pretty much the mentality.
Yeah, how can we? I mean, it's not like they were sending people out in droves or anything, but like I remember many days with my grandmother with pamphlets, putting them on people's cars. My grandmother trying to speak to anybody she could about the Catholic Church, and even back then it was splintered off. I think it's still splintered off. It's splintered off into Vatican I and Vatican II. With Vatican I, you have the old Latin Mass, and women, cover their heads and wear dresses, and the men dress, formally and go to church. And then you have Vatican II, which is it's okay to wear like whatever you want. So I mean, this started in the '60s with Vatican II, and with that's where like you kind of saw the splintering off. But I mean, that right there, that's cherry picking within the church themselves, because they're throwing away their traditions they quote unquote go by. I'm all for change. I'm not faulting them or anything to do that, but that right there proves that they were trying to get more people into the church, especially in the '60s, whenever free love was reigning and people were like expressing themselves more and wearing whatever they wanted. Well, I'm not going to wear a dress to church, or I'm not going to wear a suit to church. Okay, well, you can come in jeans and a t-shirt. It's cool as long as you. That's what they started doing, and they changed the altar table and started facing the people and made a whole bunch of changes in the '60s. So I mean, it's no surprise to me that there's like an uptick in gay Christians going to church and stuff, because of course these churches are going to change stuff around so more people will go. That's the whole point. We're going to change the way we act. I mean, okay, here's a secular example. Target stores. Target stores used to have this like crazy dress code where you couldn't go in wearing like pajama bottoms and slippers. They would be like, they would kind of turn you away at the door. Well, when the economy tanked, guess what? You go to Target, it was like you were at Walmart. You just had people at Walmart walking around at Target. That's what these companies ended up having to do. Okay, we're gonna drop what we believed in and this and that to have more people come in. And now the difference between a church and Target, of course, is the church still has that same doctrine, and that's we already talked about that. But just reiterating that point, they will still have that same doctrine where they see certain people lifestyles as how were the trespassers.
So yeah, Walmart. You know, I need to take a second and say this today because this is just some weird ass shit that happened. So I was walking through, and I overheard this conversation from me. It was a male and a female. They were both whiter than me. The chick was whiter than me. And yes, I look really sickly pale on camera, probably because I am. I don't go out in the sunlight because I kind of can't. It's a thing. Anybody wants to, we'll do a Q&A sometime. Anyway, so I was sitting there stocking merchandise, and yes, I work at Walmart. I work in the pharmacy, though, so I don't actually...
Wally World.
Anyway, so I'm sitting there stocking some merchandise in our health department, and they are arguing about back and forth about how black the girl was. She's whiter than me. And they're arguing. The male is saying, basically to paraphrase him, sweetie, you're fucking white. You're always going to be white. You're a fucking white blonde. You will never be black. No matter how black you want to think you are, you're not black.
You're triggering me.
No, I'm black. My black friends told me I'm black.
You're triggering me, Jen.
That happens at Walmart.
Jen, you're triggering me.
I'm sorry, but that's just... I looked up from being on the ground like stalking shit. I'm like, how are you having this conversation? Why are you having this conversation?
I'm triggered.
Okay, that was interesting.
It was weird.
Well, I mean, I worked for 8 years, and I heard like the stupidest conversations ever too. But you know, that's Walmart. Anyway, did we finish with that topic? Do we have a next topic, or what's up?
We're back to should gay marriage thing or civil unions more of a thing?
I was actually gonna ask that, but yeah, because I didn't know I had left for a quick moment, for just like a hot second. But yeah, I guess we'll go with Jen's. So, is there a quote-unquote sanctity of marriage? Or should there just, you know, in regards to gay marriage, should they just settle with a civil union and be happy, or does it matter? Of course, we're going to go with Gary first, and then Jen, and then this time I will chime in.
Okay. Okay, well, I'm sure you've all seen the biblical version of what marriage means. So I probably don't have to go through all that and explain that.
One man, one woman.
No. That's what the fundamentalists want to say it is, okay? However, if you actually read the Bible, you know, there's guys in there with like 7 wives. There's, you know, guys in there sharing their wife with their brother or, you know, whatever. And I know, like, some people will be like, oh, well, that's so they can have children, though. Oh, well, then it's okay. But now, no. Well, no, because our population needed to grow then. Our population. You mean the people that live in Israel's population? I don't, you know, they'll try and equate everything to everything. Like human beings wouldn't exist unless a woman slept with her husband's brother or something like that. They just, you know, cherry pick and they try to make it okay. But the point remains, the biblical version of marriage is like, dude, like if a guy raped a woman, if he pays 50 silver pieces to her father and marries her, everything's fine. And that's ridiculous. How is that a sanctimonious marriage? I don't get it. The guy was forced to either pay the 50 silvers and marry the daughter or probably be killed. So I don't see where he would have had much choice there to marry her, and that's not very sanctimonious.
And I mean, I feel like the silver pieces are just kind of a cop-out.
Well, it's not only that, too, but, like, you know, you heard about women marrying for land, women marrying for cattle. So how is that sanctimonious at all, in any respect? It's not. She didn't marry for love. It's supposed to be one man, one woman. And land and cattle, I mean, why is the definition not the same? Can I go take some cattle to the neighbor and be like, okay, I'll give you these if you let me marry your daughter? Probably could, but would that be so sanctimonious? Probably not. In my opinion, it isn't, because it's not her choice. I'm sure not all these women were like, oh yeah, I totally love him. Take his cows. So they wanted to skip over all that and just be like, it's not Adam and Steve and that kind of dumb crap. Which that's my take on it. There's no, as long as two people love each other and want to be together and they're both adults, then I have no problem with it.
Gender.
So I'm gonna get away from the religious side of this for a second and look at it like financially. The American government. Now I'm not talking about the rest of the world because I don't know about other countries, but the American government gives tax breaks to married families. People who are married get different benefits than people who are single and living together. So I think that, everyone, gay, lesbian, transgender, whatever you are, should be allowed to get married and get the same equal benefits that are shared among married couples. It's not sacred, as Gary said. Back then, you could rape someone and then pay it off and be done with it. It was basically buying property. Women were property then, and there's nothing sacred about owning your property. So, marriage is not sacred. Marriage is, you love this person, you love that person, you want the tax breaks, go for it. My parents have lived my entire life, never been married. They're a happy couple. My family's happy. Like, I was raised with the idea that marriage is a piece of paper. It's not that big of a deal. Married, unmarried, as long as you're with the person you like and you have a happy family, it's okay. More importantly, I know it's like a rights and equality thing. I just don't see marriage as being that big of a thing because I was raised to see it as a piece of paper. And it's, you can be with who you want without it. So I think they should be more concerned with the ability to adopt children. In some states, gay couples can't adopt a child. And I would think that, being able to adopt a child would outweigh the right to be married. Like, you want to have that family, which is more important than having a piece of paper that says, we're married. In this century, it doesn't seem like marriage is the overall top thing to be. It's just something. It's a piece of paper. In my eyes, that's all it is. It's a paper saying, yo, I like this dude, I'm married to him. Now, if your spouse is filthy fucking rich, or you're filthy fucking rich, and your spouse isn't, then I can see why marriage would be a thing, because then you want to get the prenup, and it gets into all those issues. Like, honestly, if my parents broke up tomorrow, nothing would happen because they're not married. So there wouldn't be that legal battle, and there wouldn't be anything. I really do see marriage as more of a problem. So I respect their right to get married. I myself don't see it as an issue. I would rather, being bisexual myself, be fighting for rights that are more important. Like if I were to have a female partner and we decided we wanted a child, being able to go to an adoption agency and get a child is more important than being able to go to a fucking church I don't want to go to anyway and get married. Okay, I'm done.
Well, don't equate marriage with churches because you don't have to go to church to get married. Like you were saying, it's a piece of paper. So I mean, you can just go in front of a judge and get married.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that either.
I can marry people, and and I'm not religious, but I can legally now marry people. Again, I figure I'll chime in because I've kept quiet for a little bit here. I was kind of raised with, I wasn't raised to see it as a piece of paper, but I always did. My grandparents have been together now for longer than majority of the people in here have been alive. And they've never been married. The only reason I could see marriage being useful is legal documents and things of that nature, because if they weren't grandfathered in, a lot of the benefits wouldn't go either way without it being directly written into a will. But overall, to me, I've always viewed it from what it was. Marriage was never this. Well, I can't say never was. It took time to get there, but it wasn't always this quote unquote sanctimonious thing. And even now, it's not really that sanctimonious. It was just business, just like everything else. You married just like in Africa or any other kingdom, you married one daughter from one kingdom to a prince of another to join the families and start something or stop something. Or, I mean, you could marry your daughter for like what, 6 heads of oxen or something like that. It was more of a business move and more of a political move or diplomatic move than it ever was love and sanctimonious vows and all that other. Because it hasn't been, considering human history is rather short and comparative to all the of Earth's history, hadn't really been that long ago since you could marry my daughter for like 5 oxen, just like right off bat. And in some places, it's still the case. It's still an arranged marriage. It's an arrangement, and it's beneficial to both parties usually in some way. You want to marry my daughter? Cool. I want something, I want something in return. I want gold or money, or that's why you have to pay tithes and such. So marriage isn't really sanctimonious to me, but if someone wants to get married and if that's an important thing to them, just away from a legal standpoint, for love or emotions or whatever else, then I feel like they should be able to do so. The Bible does not define, it's not the definition or should not be the definition of marriage, because marriages have been happening far before the Bible existed in its current form or earlier form, and it'll probably continue to exist.
I mean, you could look at other. You don't have to just point out the Bible either. I mean, look at the Quran. It's okay for men to marry like 9-year-old children, and society nowadays, of course, is like what, which is me too. I'm like, what? I mean, children. Scientifically speaking, the human brain is not fully developed until the age of 24. So when you got your Catholic children as young as 9 or like 12 or whatever, and they're telling them that they're going to marry this person, they don't grasp the concept that it's for life. They don't grasp the concept that forever means or anything. They would never get to have regular teenage life or anything of that nature. Me personally, I was married for 6 years. I got married at the age of 24, and it was a rocky marriage. I mean, like I said, I was married for 6 years. It was a rocky marriage. My ex-wife didn't put a lot into the relationship, but I never once cheated on her. And to me, that's what sanctity of marriage means. If you're with a person, you're with a person. That's just what it means to me. There's people out there that have open marriages, and hey, that's as long as they're being honest with their partner, that's completely fine. If that's what you both agreed on, that's fine. But for me personally, my personal opinion, I would not step out on the person I'm with because that's all I have, I guess.
Well, going back to what you said just a moment ago as far as open relationships go, it's kind of the same. I'd use the same argument for that I use for anything else. It's two consenting, sound-minded in relative terms, able-bodied people saying, yes, this is what we want to do. Then as long as they're not harming each other or someone else,
right? As long as they're not lying,
doesn't matter.
As long as they're not lying to anybody, like not lying to their partner or not lying to the other party that's involved, and feelings won't get hurt. As long as everybody, okay, I'm not going to say that with finality.
Feelings won't get hurt.
Right. I'm not going to say that with finality. I'm sure that there could be feelings that get hurt. I mean, I saw my fiance and I. We were watching video about polyamorous couples, and this guy was like in his 40s, and his first wife about his age, and his second wife was like 26. And you could just, if you're able to read body language, go past what the lady was saying that, oh yeah, it's fine, and I'm fine with it, and just look at her face and look at her body language, and you can tell she wasn't fine with it. But that's just, that's if people can't face their own mortality and know that they're going to get older and that there's always going to be younger people than them, then that's their issue. But they should never have agreed to be in that kind of relationship where their husband could be like, okay, I'm going to get a younger model, but I'm still going to keep you around because you're my first.
Well, not only that, but I feel like you also, if you have an issue with that as an adult, rather than going out and doing something stupid or being really just as an adult, or you should come maturely to the other person and state your position, not sit there and say, no, it's fine.
Right. Just because you're surrounded by material items that are conveniently at hand or whatever, it still shouldn't matter. If you're not happy in a relationship, you should speak up, and that's for anybody.
Yeah, that's what I'm. Well, I mean,
In any relationship.
but I mean that just really points out like that's it. And I mean, if you want to break it down even past what marriage is, on a business level, it just goes back to man or humankind, not trying to be gender specific, but humankind's overall need to possess things, including each other. So,
Right.
like, when you're married to someone, that ring is kind of evidence to everyone else. Like, I belong to someone else on both ends, usually if they both have a ring.
But that's when it should be a choice. That you chose to belong to somebody else, and that other person chose to belong to you as well.
And you were aware of all the things that came with that.
That's where I get fuzzy on the whole, polyamorous or bigamous marriages, because I don't see how I could split myself. I mean, I have a hard enough time splitting myself between my 4 kids, let alone trying to split myself between 2 or 3 spouses.
Agreed. Like I said, if you can, everyone's different. If you can handle that, by all means, go right ahead. I can't. I can tell you right now, I can barely handle myself. But as long as you're not hurting anyone, this goes for any relationship. It's the same. This is my gay marriage, trans, anything. Like, as long as you know what you're getting into, hopefully, but you're consenting and you're of sound mind, and you're not going to seriously harm yourself, unless like body modification or something, because some people like pain. But unless you're going to like seriously harm or maim yourself or harm or maim other people that aren't consenting, I don't care.
Yeah, and let's like throw something else in there. There was a Lifetime movie. Some of you may laugh, and that's fine. But I have at times watched Lifetime movies
I
because
watch Lifetime all the time.
And there was this Lifetime movie they came out with called Change of Heart, and it was about this guy who had married a woman and had children with her, and found out, within himself, 15 years into the marriage, that he was gay and he had never.
I've seen that.
He never explored that part of his sexuality, and he had repressed it because, society. So good thing to see about all of these, all this legislation being passed where gay marriages are being accepted, is that there's a whole lot of people out there that will no longer have to hide. They can explore their sexuality and see where they stand. Where everybody, not everybody, but everybody goes through confusion in some aspect of their life at some point. I don't know who I am. I don't know how I feel about these things, and there's a lot of people that suppress that, and they never how they truly feel. And it doesn't come down to it. I never take the stance that homosexuality is a choice. It isn't. If you look at my little sister, for example, she had a boyfriend. She got pregnant by him. She had a baby with him. He's a good dad, but she realized that wasn't who she was. And she thought, but she realized that wasn't who she was. And it wasn't like she made the choice, like, okay, I'm gonna be this way. She really loved him. She really loved the father of the baby, but she also thought that she could no longer deny who she was, and she decided she didn't decide. But yeah, you know what I mean. I'm getting at she's a lesbian.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm happy, especially for your sister, that unlike a lot of people, she was able to determine what she, how she was, or however you want to phrase that, but she was able to define her own sexuality, and hopefully it was amicably split, and go and figure things out from there, because a lot of people unfortunately don't get that.
Right.
Um,
You have a comment?
my Yeah, I was finna mention that. So thanks, Gary. We have a comment.
We do have a comment from our viewer Sin. He said, I agree that it is a piece of paper, but to many people, that little piece of paper is the most important thing. To some people, that piece of paper is proof that they are married, and without it, they don't believe that they are, even with common laws. Okay,
Yep.
that's crazy.
That's fine. If to people that means a lot, then that means a lot. I mean, yeah, I'm not gonna lie. My first marriage, my certificate did mean a lot. And I had it hanging on my wall. I also, but that's just how I feel about marriage personally. I don't go blindly into a relationship. Yes, I divorced my ex-wife at the end of 2010, but it was just because certain things happened. We grew apart and all that kind of stuff. And she had undiagnosed mental issues that she refused to get help with. I tried and tried and tried, and all she ended up doing was taking off on me and taking off with my kids. So I divorced her and I got my kids back with full custody because she was not fit to raise them. So that's just like my little story, but
But I mean, I feel
to the marriage blindly. I felt with my whole heart that's what I wanted, and that's what she felt at that time. So I've been with my fiance now for 3 years. We got money to like have a nice type of wedding that we're gonna, my mom because my mom and all that kind of stuff in universal marriages and things like that. Just to perform the ceremony and get that piece of paper is what we're talking about. But like our commenter said, to some people it means everything, and I'm one of those people. It means a lot to me, and my fiance is one of those people too. It means a lot to her.
well, I mean, and I'm just gonna chime in real quick because mine's gonna be real quick. Again, because of the people I got to see, the marriage certificate isn't like that important to me, but to the person I've been with now, who I've been with roughly dealing with close to 2 or 3 years now, just roughly. Um, it's a lot to her, and I feel like if you if you truly care about whoever you're dealing with, male, female, transgender, hermaphrodite, I don't give a damn, and that piece of paper means a lot to them, you'd get it. Just because generally, with the exception of legal issues, the piece of paper doesn't really matter either way. Unless it matters to a person, it's just a piece of paper legally stating that you were married. But being committed to, like, you can have a piece of paper and not be committed to a person. That's when cheating happens. So I feel like if it means a lot to you, go get it. And for some people, like our commenter said, it does mean a lot. But again, do realize that that piece of paper does not absolve, does not stop like feelings arising earlier, or just, love being lost or people growing apart. It just states at this current point in time, from this point on, you said that you're going to be committed to this person. Usually, depending on where you go, it's till death does you part.
With the polyamorous, they're getting one piece of paper with one person, but their marriage is open, so they're sharing partners and they're swapping and this and that. So like it really does come down to it is just the piece of paper, but the meaning behind it changes from person to person.
Precisely. Jen?
We got quite a few comments coming from the Facebook page.
Oh, well, I was going to ask, what your opinion was on the marriage thing, but comments are fine too.
A comment about the mic's not working. Sorry, Gary. Your mic's been cutting in and out a lot again.
But I've actually been able to pick him up. I mean, it's been a little rough, so at like weird points, but I was still able to decipher what he was saying.
Yeah, same. It's just it's kind of like fading and then it just comes back. I don't know if he's got like a short somewhere in the mic or if he's like moving his arm back and forth. I don't know what he's doing. Anyway, there's that comment. People who want to join in the podcast. Yeah, that looks like it for right now.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of people that I saw about a few minutes ago who was like, I want to join in. I tried to join in, but I can't join in.
I'm trying to explain that now. Anyway.
Invite only, but okay, I'm gonna hold my.
Bring up Facebook. That's our point. We are doing this as part of the Facebook page, Atheist Jesus. How can we not?
Dios mío, Dios. Look, don't deal with it. The comments aren't a question or whether it be critical comment or praise. I don't really care as long as it's a comment related to it and not I want to join in, I want to join in. And don't worry about it.
Got it. Okay. So yeah. Nope. That's it. I've said all I need to on the marriage thing. I honestly, growing up without it and not trusting people, having been screwed over in many relationships, I'm not interested in marriage. I respect people's right to get married. I think everyone should have that right. But to me, it's nothing more than a piece of paper that would, if your house caught on fire, be gone.
Well, Jen, I actually was going to ask you, of course Gary has to be in my marriage, but would you sacrifice something to Satan at my wedding for me, please, Jen?
Yes, I would. I would be honored. I don't do living animals.
I don't care what you sacrifice. You can sacrifice, like, a rock.
I can bring, like, a stuffed animal. Like, you got, like, a stuffed animal?
Oh, yeah. That's cool.
Okay. I'll even go and get, like, some fake bloods when I do it. It'll, like, pop open. I'll, like, sew it shut, like, sew a little blood pack in there. It'll be cool.
Her family's going to kill me.
There was a good article I read. Well, it was a letter that groom wrote to his bride right before their wedding, and basically he told her that he had spoken with his father about the marriage and everything. And he's like, well, marriage isn't about you. And it's not just about one person, it's about both people. So just going back to the original, what is what the is trying to say? If two people love each other very much and they're consenting adults and they want to enter into marriage, then by all means go right ahead. But Jen's saying that we have. Is my mic cutting in still?
Yeah, it just completely cut out that time.
This is pissing me off.
Well, while you work on that, we have a question. When are we getting an Atheist Jesus cartoon? You guys want to make a cartoon?
See, that's... I'd have to talk to the other admin for Atheist Jesus, who's not in the podcast, and see what he feels about that.
Okay. Well,
I think if the other admin, because I don't know if I can say his name, so if the other admin is cool with it, that'd probably be dope. We just need to find the voice of Atheist Jesus. But any other comments there?
Yes. Do you guys think same-sex marriage should be state or federal issues, and what about adoption? Same question. Should it be state or federal?
Well, I'm just going to chime in because I just had to go back over this. According to the Constitution's an iffy thing because it says that states are supposed to regulate unless it's unconstitutional. But we're also not supposed to uphold any religion, and I feel like saying one man, one woman is holding up not only one religion but many, when the definition of marriage is just, staying committed between commitment between two consenting adults. So I feel like marriage is one of those issues, as long as the state isn't doing anything unconstitutional, I don't, which is really everything regarding marriage, like restricting it.
Right.
It should be handled by the feds. But and then at this point, that's what it's come to, especially with gay marriage. A lot of it being, ruled as a lot of the laws being ruled as unconstitutional. That's what it's come to. Again, if you're going by our Constitution, the American one, I don't know about other countries and territories and things of such nature. States are, entitled to have control over certain things, schools and other things, until their law, once it goes before the Supreme Court and gets put under judicial review, is ruled unconstitutional. When it comes to gay marriage, a lot of the laws surrounding gay marriage unconstitutional. Adoption is a really iffy thing because I don't know necessarily where that lies in between state or fed, but I personally feel like as long as you're going to be a good parent, it shouldn't matter.
Okay, well, here's what I think. Human rights for everybody in the country should be, because it's human rights. Every single person who lives in the country. Therefore, adoption should be seen as a human right, not only for the couple that wants to adopt, but also for the children. Every child has a right to be raised in a home with living parents.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't know why my mic is still cutting out because I have my face right next to it.
Okay.
Okay. So I looked it up. Currently, adoption is considered a federal issue. However, there are private adoption agencies.
And see, that's one of those things. It's just kind of like the private schools. I mean, if you're a private institution, you're paying for it. You should be able to do what you want. But then it gets into those troubles where you have the mass forced indoctrination of children when you go to Catholic schools and other religious schools, whether it be Christian, Judeo-Christian or not. And then things like that where you're probably putting this kid, and you could, I can't say probably, there's a possibility of you mistaking the adoption, the adoptees as good people sometimes simply based off of their sexual orientation, when they would have been 10 times better off with a same-sex couple or whatever, however you want to work it out. You just sent them to a terrible heterosexual couple with terrible, just absolutely just horrible views and parenting practices simply based off of sexual orientation and religious preference. That's my only issue with the private organization thing. Gary?
Yes.
All right, your mic seems to be good.
Okay.
Did you hear what she said?
No, what was the last thing again, Jen? I'm sorry.
Should adoptions be state or federal issues, and the thoughts on private adoption companies?
Well, I don't know if you heard what I said the last time or if I cut out, but adoptions definitely should fall under human rights, and human rights should fall under federal mandate. So, like I said, I believe every child should have the basic human right to live in a home with a loving couple and not in an orphanage or not be passed around through the foster care system.
Which is terrible.
Yes, the foster care system is freaking terrible. My oldest son was in treatment foster care, which is foster care where I go and I would see him every week and we would do therapy. However, it was still the foster care system. Now, these people were more regulated than regular foster parents. They had to visit an office and that was a lot better. There are still a lot of things that could go down in somebody else's home that's not regulated, and you go right seeing that child as not their own child, they're just a paycheck.
Yeah, I mean, and unfortunately, there've been several times I could have been put in the system, but I've gotten lucky enough to never be put in the system, the foster care system at least. But I know so many people, especially coming from the places I've been, who either were in are in currently, or got out of and got back to their parents or some other the next of kin um foster care situation. And there's you're really lucky if you get a good parent. Sometimes you just get the parent who doesn't care but doesn't hurt you. But there's a great deal, at least in my experience, where you get like the parent who either he's going to just treat you like a paycheck, he or she I should state, he's going to treat you like a paycheck, or you're going to get the one who's really really just controlling and abusive and manipulative, sometimes not only mentally, physically, and verbally abusive, but unfortunately sexually abusive to the child. And that, in my experience, has happened more often than any other case. Is that some form of abuse was committed? Because it's not, it's not their kid. They're just a paycheck. It doesn't fucking matter to them.
I think the problem, of course, is like you said, they just see the kid as a paycheck and not their own kid. And I don't think, I mean, there's obviously no family counseling or therapy set in place for these couples that are foster parents. They just take in these kids because the state didn't know what to do with them when they took them away from whoever they took them away from. And that's another issue in this country is Child Protective Services. The head of Child Protective Services in New Mexico resigned because they were not taking seriously a lot of violent cases and they were chasing. They were basically witch hunting in violent cases. So they resigned because there was a lot of children dying under the watch on cases that had been reported. Anyway, Jen's telling me I'm losing sound again. I don't know.
Oh, let's see if you can fix it. But my issues with Child Protective Services and that whole situation is you walk a really fine line between trying to dictate how a parent can teach and guide and discipline and handle their children, and protecting the child. That's unfortunately it shouldn't be, but we walk a really 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 fine line, and a lot of it is due to people just don't like feeling controlled, even though some people really do need like some sort of guideline, because there's such a pushback against any sort of control. For the most part, there's a lot of just gray area where it's kind of like, we can do this and we don't know how the kid's going to turn out. Is it detrimental most often? Yeah, but there are some good kids that came out of it, and that's one issue I have with it. Another issue is, regardless with your parents, once you're in the system, you become it's kind of like a tarred stain. You just become the forgotten child or forgotten children of this country, when you should be one of the, I wouldn't say, yeah, you should be one of the highest priorities when it comes to like child welfare. Like, if you're worried about child welfare, I worry about the kids who are being abused by their parents, but I also worry about the kids who are in the system, who are orphans or in shelters or dealing with abusive foster parents. And oftentimes, no one deals with it. No one. No one. Or there's a lot of kids in the system who have some sort of criminal record, so that when an issue arises, they're not the issue or whatever they say is not taken as valid, because you can look at their history and say, oh, well, this kid, he lied or he stole something when he was in an orphanage with no guidance, no real guidance. So obviously we can't take anything he says seriously. So whatever abuse he's suffering, he's probably lying about it. Or she, I should, to be fair. And that's a big issue, because again, you're just forgotten and or orphan or anything like in any sort of history, or seeing that in someone's living history is kind of it's like kind of a black mark against you already. And that's a really big issue. But Jen, since Gary and I have kind of dominated the conversation, lo siento.
So yeah, when it comes to adoption, like you brought up forgotten children, and I don't know how many people have ever looked up like haunted asylums, but there used to be this asylum in Pennsylvania that was
Not that one.
what one? Yeah, yes, Penhurst.
I have a brother who he's the one that might be on here, but he's from Pennsylvania, and he explained to me.
Okay, so then yeah, you've heard the history. Basically, the history of this place was it opened as a state school and a hospital, and parents would send their children there to be forgotten. Some of those children, once they were dropped off, never saw their parents again. Like, in later years, when they tried to reach out to the families to return the children when the hospital closed, the family blatantly said, no, that's not my child, I don't want him back. Because of, an issue, but these children were forgotten, and some of these children, towards the end of the school, when it was going to close down, were still relatively young, left unplaced, and they just kind of opened the gates and said, here you go, you're free, and let them just wander out into town. The day it closed, the doctors walked in, said, drop everything, we're closing, your job ends today, just leave it. They opened the gates and let them, the children, and some adults even, just walk out. Like, there were people that were there well into, like, their 30s because their family wouldn't take them back and they couldn't be a part of society. So they either got transferred to an adult hospital or they would continue to stay here and be put through horrible tortures. And that's, like, some of these adoption agencies, like, going through the 1900s, you would go out west and you would see these adoption agencies that were privately owned. The children were underfed, they often looked dirty, and their only way out was to find a family, and sometimes they were adopted to be helped, especially out west. Families would go adopt the boys so that they could become farmhands, and they were adopted solely to become labor. And no one really regulated
Slaves.
that. So
Yeah, and on the flip side of that, like I talked about earlier, the CPS issue that was going on in New Mexico, that goes on in a lot of these states with the family services or social services, where good families that they may have a child with a mental disability and they're trying to handle it as good as they can, and they get put under the microscope because everybody wants to blame the upbringing of trying to give services to the family to try to support them and support their childhood. I went through this kind of stuff in New Mexico. Colorado, they have way better services here. We've dealt with social services here. They got us wraparound services. They got us the help we needed, and more importantly, they got my son the help he needs. And then I have my other son that they're not trying to. They aren't calling social services every day like, oh well, this kid's in a hand. It's got to be this environment at home. Go check on them or anything of that nature. But that's what was going on where I did live. So there are certain states that are really stepping up and really trying to help families and children, and there's other states that kind of aren't. They're just kind of running a shot and taking shots at whichever family they want to, and other families they're completely ignoring where the children really do need replacement.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and this goes back to the original point, so I can wrap this up. I mean, a lot of these things have occurred, and a lot of these things can occur to children. Often can, and there's always this possibility because you have this issue with not only privatized foster care and adoption agencies, but even ones that are federal that are just unregulated. They're just like, all right, they're there, and just like the forgotten children, these services are forgotten about until it's time to fund them again. So they're allowed to do whatever they want, and if they happen to be run by a very religious person or someone who disagrees with certain people's lifestyle, these kids can go through these things where they their only way out is getting a family, and the people that could adopt them and could save them from whatever horrors they may face throughout their travels are denied the child, and thus by denying those people you're also denying the children a good life, a good start, an equal playing field with everyone else who has a good life, based off of some particularities in the old book and your dislike of someone's lifestyle, someone's sexual preference, or in some cases someone's religious affiliations. And so that's why I feel like, and as Gary stated, and I believe Jen stated, it should be a federal a federal situation. That way, it has to be equal for all. There's no way. I can't say there's no way, but there's more of a chance of some of these forgotten kids, being saved by same-sex couples or other, alternative lifestyle couples who would really care and take care of, really care for and take care of these kids, whereas they would be stuck in the system. Because when you're on a totally federal basis, once it usually, there's more of a structure, more of a regulation where you're not allowed to discriminate. Now, is it going to happen? Of course. And I mean, even happens now with federally funded and regulated businesses and situations, foster care and all that. But it would open up more gates and open up more opportunities for these children to be saved, and they wouldn't have to they wouldn't have to be denied an opportunity at a good life based off of someone not liking the sexual preference of their possible parents.
Arguably, children that are being raised in homes of love and acceptance, regardless of the gender of the parents, whether it's a hetero parentage or homo parentage, if they're being raised in a home with love and acceptance, then they're going to learn love and acceptance for their fellow. That's really an issue that I take to heart, because nowadays it just seems like kids are inundated with so much crap, and it's hard to regulate. It is, because it doesn't matter. You could try to shelter them, you could try to cover them from everything at home, and they're just going to go to school and hear about it from somebody else. The best thing as a parent is to try and teach them what's going on, instead of these believe that lifestyle is a sin and those people are going to hell. That's nothing to hammer into a child's head, and that's just ignorance and hate, phobia that they're hammering into their child's head, and that doesn't help anybody. That doesn't help the future. Take for example again my son, when he was with my ex, he was living with people that had ignorant things.
Mm-hmm.
People using derogatory terms toward black students. So it's me trying to be patient with him and teach him ignorance, and teach him that it's not okay to be ignorant, but ignorance can be fixed. Ignorance can be worked on, and just trying to teach empathy.
Agreed. Well, I'm about to move to another topic, but it would seem that we have another comment over marriage, and considering how long we've been ranting about it, I don't know what we haven't covered, but let's see what our question is.
Actually, the reason I'm bringing this one up is because it has nothing to do with traditional beliefs. It's on the Wiccan version of marriage, so I thought it was kind of interesting.
I feel like now I have to go call my mom. All right, go ahead.
Wiccan hand fasting does not come with a piece of paper, but in belief is stronger and deeper than traditional marriage. It has always been that way, and on the same-sex side, Wicca has never judged them.
Okay. That's good for Wicca.
I don't know. Comment those made.
I mean, I'll just respond to it real quick. I mean, that's cool, and I'm not going to debate that. I'm just saying, like, you have to recognize Wicca is not a dominating religion. So really, if you're going to pick something to believe in, it's one of those really cool ones that really doesn't have a lot of super duper discrimination or anything, but it's not a domineering force. It's not what most of our politicians are. In fact, I don't think there is a Wicca politician, or the one that's in like Congress or Senate or Supreme Court. And I say these things because I'm in America, but I don't really think there is like a really major Wicca Wicca branch in any country or territory or anything that holds a lot of power. But I mean, that's great. Shit, at least one religion's not discriminating.
Let's
Um,
we can't make a blanket statement about all religions or anything either, because there are people in certain religions that are pro-choice, that they are pro-marriage and all that kind of stuff. But then that goes back to what we said at the beginning. That's just cherry picking, and why are you even going to put yourself through that kind of contradiction?
yeah, when I mean, at the end of the day, I have love and respect for everyone, and if you believe differently than your doctrine, that's fine. But why identify with a doctrine that says differently? Because regardless of how you identify, the doctrine still is there. The doctrine still states usually these homophobic and just discriminatory things, and just really oftentimes sickening things. So you need to kind of come to a decision about what you're doing with your life, and you need to recognize that you're just cherry picking the book. Now,
Right.
if you know that you're cherry picking the book, and for religious people, you kind of accept like, yeah, I know I'm religiously in my in my mind or my sect, I'm probably going to catch shit for this, but I personally believe. As long as you're able to recognize, like, yes, you're cherry picking the book, then that's a whole nother conversation we need to have about why you follow that particular faith or denomination. But at least you recognize that you're cherry picking the book, because that's what it is.
Right. Exactly.
Um, I heard the cat go off twice. So is there another comment, or can I switch topics?
I don't see any other comments. I think that one was just you replying about the cat going off, but I'm going to say something real quick on this. I think the reason this comment was brought up is because they aren't doing it for, like, the traditional reason of the paper or the sanctity. It's, in their minds, it's solely based on love. You're doing it just for love, and I think that was the point of that comment, that there are groups who marry solely for love.
Well, I wanted to be understood before I switch topics, because it doesn't need to happen, that I'm not stating that, when we say, obviously, if you heard us speaking, we were talking about, but we're usually talking about Judeo-Christian values, but I never want to make the blanket statement on religions. The only blanket statement you might hear me say on religions is, at the end of the day, in my opinion, for a vast majority, if not all, but a vast majority, if yours is an exclusion, then it's an exclusion. It's usually the same thing repeated down at its core for, like, certain things, or like a lot of, if you cherry pick, a lot of the same things are repeated again and again in every religion. But I'm not making a blanket statement. So when we were talking about how religions view the sanctity of marriage, when we said religions, we weren't speaking about all religions. We were speaking about those religions that view marriage in this way. And I believe when we first started talking about marriage, we were talking about the Catholic Church and just Christians in general. And then we went on to Islam for like a few seconds. So I want whoever's listening, whatever faith you may be or may not be, do understand we're not making a blanket statement about your religion when we say the word religion. Unless we say all religions, we're not talking about all religions. So if yours is an exception, that's great.
Okay. What's the next topic, man?
Next topic I want to talk about. I know there's been going on, and I know that you guys, because you seem intelligent and all-knowing, would know the newest string of controversies as far as the businesses that are rejecting same-sex couples, because this is the conversation about LGBTQ issues. Like the bakery, wasn't the bakery in Pittsburgh or Philadelphia? Yeah, or Pennsylvania, I should say, that rejected. It was a bakery and rejected to make a wedding cake for a lesbian couple, and then now I think almost at least a few months, I think at most a year later, she's on the news crying about how she went bankrupt. And my question is, like, how do you guys feel about that? Do you feel like if a business, for whatever reason, basically gets the rights of people, like if they want to reject this certain thing, can they reject it? Like if they don't want to make a cake or do any, give service to a certain group of people, can they?
There was a another person at I believe it was a photography company that was writing photographs, and they refused to. I mean, that's exist. Why are you going to be? You can be a bigot as much as you want in your personal life, but if you want to kill your business and take away like more than half your business because these people exist and these marriages are being put into legislation and being legalized, why you're going to kill your business? And that's
especially if something goes national.
right. And it's everybody's right to have whatever personal feelings they have, but the bottom line is what these people want to do, getting married in that's not. They're not going into your home and forcing you to be part of their marriage. They're not. They're walking into your business as a client. They have money to pay you just like every other client. You're just gonna like you said. She's on the news crying about going bankrupt. Well, what did you think was going to happen? Your company's going to get boycotted, especially since by and large people are accepting the fact that gay couples want to get married and that these laws are passing. So of course there's going to be a ton of people out there who, personally, two of my sisters are lesbians. So sure as hell I'm not going to give you any of my money to your business if you're going to use your bigoted statements to make statements for your company. I don't need a Chick-fil-A. I know the guy that said what he said. He passed away and stuff, but while he was still alive, I wasn't going to go over there and give him more money because he came out and was like, I think homosexuality, that this. Dude, shut the hell up. Just make chicken sandwiches.
Well, I mean, it's not like you're going to catch the gay from the money.
Have you seen the dude from Duck Dynasty? Dude, shut the fuck up and just film your show. I mean, that's just how I feel about it, dude.
But that's part of the show. That's like the PR stunt, and it's a perfect.
I've seen the defense for him or the apologists. Well, they asked him a question. What did they think he was going to say? He could have just said no comment. That's completely fine. He could have just said he had no comment on the matter because, yeah, it's his opinion. But man, what a freaking opinion to have in this country that's supposed to be tolerant and peaceful. And I mean, look at
when TV has a lot of gay, homosexuals in the industry, and you work basically on TV for a TV network, who I'm sure hires homosexuals.
Yeah, I mean, look at what do you call it? You threw me off. I was going to bring up like a few years ago there was that whole thing between TK Knight and I can't remember who the other guy's name is from Grey's Anatomy. And he had used a derogatory slur. One guy used a derogatory slur towards another guy, and it ended up being this big old thing. And the guy ended up getting fired from the show. Well, I mean, was that necessary? I don't know. Was the LA Clippers guy?
Sterling?
Yeah, Sterling, the LA Clippers guy who was recorded by his girlfriend at the time. Was I mean, I don't know, dude. It just people can have bigoted opinions all they want, but I mean that was kind of bullshit that she just like threw that tape out there and fucked up the guy's life. Basically, it was a private conversation. I personally feel that there's a whole bunch of people out there that are pissed off because the government's going to take away our privacy and they're going to get into our lives. Well, where the fuck were those people when this guy was being persecuted? Okay. That was a conversation that was sold for money. And then what happened to the guy? His opinions, who gives a shit? Is he getting players on the team? Is he whitewashing everything? No. He had a personal fucking bigoted opinion at that time, but he didn't throw it in the public's face. But this freaking chick that he was dating decides that, I got it on tape, so I'm going to shop at the TMZ and get completely broken.
Well, it's just money.
There's just a lot of contradictory stuff out there. Where were those people that were like, buying all these organizations that are taking privacy away from people. Oh man, Facebook Messenger, don't install it because it's going to be able to see this and that and access your phone and this and that. Where the fuck were those people?
Agreed. Well, I'm gonna give because I have just really quick statements. I'm split because, especially as a minority, it harkens back to me and very eerily of segregation era shit, like Jim Crow laws, where it's like we don't serve blacks in this restaurant, and it's just discriminating against a person for their race, or just basically something that they cannot control, a factor of themselves that just comes innately with them, that's not harming anyone. But I also feel like, shit, do what you want. If you own that business, do what the hell you want. If you don't want to serve gays, and again, even with the civil rights thing, you don't want to serve blacks or whatever, do what you want. But do understand with that, you're going to lose business. You're losing out on business, period, just by discriminating and not being accepting of everyone.
Right.
Because it's already known that not everyone's going to like you, but the more enemies you make, and the more people you ostracize, the less people, less of an audience you have. And do realize that if it goes national or viral to whatever media it goes to, you're screwed. Especially in this day and age.
But see, those are people stating that about their business. Those are people that.
Yeah. And I mean, I understand that. If you want to state that and that's your position, and you want to stick to your position, I stick to my position. I can respect. I'm not going to respect your position, but I respect you sticking to your position, even though I feel like it's not only a foolish move morally, but it's a foolish move business in a business sense. However, don't go on news crying, I'm bankrupt, and I was just sticking to my morals, and how would this ruin me?
Right.
You're going against what is popularly accepted by society.
It's not just that.
You're discriminating against a group of people. You're ostracizing on a business sense, you're ostracizing a possible audience for your business and possible consumers. And you're not accepting money.
Look what Hobby did.
What you say?
Look what Hobby Lobby did with contraceptives. I mean, now there's Hobby Lobby apologists. Oh, well, leave them alone because they still use this many other contraceptives, but they allow these 3. Okay, that's fine, but it would be even better if they weren't hypocrites about it, because the companies that they refuse to supply the contraceptives from are companies that they invested in. So don't be hypocritical about it. Don't invest in those companies if that's really how you feel about that contraceptive, that it goes against your religious beliefs. Give them money then. But that's not what they did. They invested in that company to make money, but they won't give those contraceptives, those 3 contraceptives, to their employees.
Agreed. But again, like, it's just one of those things. It's kind of like letting a kid, because you have children, but if I have children, kind of do like what my parents did to me. It was just like, all right, I understand that, this is your life and this is what you want to do. Do understand that whatever consequences come with this shit, don't be surprised. And if, that happens to, and if something negative happens to occur, this is from a direct cause of your actions. But I feel like my position is just my position. I'm going to give it to Jen just because her position is a little more interesting for us, considering that I'm just a straight minority, and then Jen obviously is part of the community in a way, so I want her perspective. Not to mention she's been giving me the stank eye for the past hour.
No, I haven't. I've been reading comments and stuff, but I do want to say something on Gary's point of view real quick. Part of the Hobby Lobby thing, and I'm not sticking up for them with this, part of what they were not covering was not covered under insurance anyway. Plan B typically is an over-the-counter medication that anyone over the age of 18 can buy, so it kind of even wasn't their decision. That's just not something that's offered on insurance plans unless you have this insanely good insurance plan that will pay for everything in the world. And most people can't.
I doubt any Hobby Lobby worker has.
Yeah, so not defending them, but at the same time, the things they weren't really okay with, they couldn't exactly offer to begin with. It's not there. I mean, I know certain state-funded programs will pay for it, but that's state to state, and this is a national company, so they, like, and you don't get state-funded insurance when you're working, so it's private insurance, and typically private insurance doesn't do the over-the-counter thing. They're like, hey, anyone can buy this. We don't care how much it is. If it's available to everyone over the age of 18, we're not paying. If it's a prescription, come talk to us. So yeah, there's just that. Now on to the next part of this. I myself, being bisexual and a Satanist, get shit all the time. Like, this is really cool. Like, both my bosses are like, you know what, Jen's Jen, she has some really interesting stories for when we're slow. Like, if we want to hear something interesting, because there's absolutely no work to do, we just make Jen talk. Ask her a stupid question, she'll have like 50 facts on it for us. But then I get these, like, customers who come in who are ignorant as can be, and I'm lucky because if they get too ignorant, my bosses step in and they're like, knock it off. You can't talk to the employees like that. And I think that's what employers need to do. They need to understand that not only are their customers a diverse group, but they need to extend the same courtesies to their employees. Because Target, a few years ago, had to issue a company-wide apology to all of their gay employees. Anyone who had mentioned at any point that they were openly gay or in that store known as being a gay employee received a letter from Target because Target had been giving money to a politician who was trying to stop gay rights. And the workers were like, well, wait, we're working for you. We're barely getting paid shit anyway, and you won't let us unionize. And now you're going to say, well, it's not okay to be gay? So, like, it kind of goes both ways. We're talking about the consumer, but the employees are getting just as much crap as the consumer, and that's causing companies to lose workers. Some of these people who are going out of work are being fired because of their beliefs. They then can't afford to buy things because they don't have any work to do, so you're not just cutting down your business in your store, but you're taking money away from people to spend in not only your store, but other stores. This overall general hate in the economy and how bosses like to play with, you know, the politically correct terms and whether or not this is okay and this is my belief is basically fucking up everything just by, you know, firing one gay employee. Let's take one gay employee. You fire them because you're a private company.
Please don't fire me.
No, you're not fired. This is random subject A. From company fires employee A because employee A is gay. That employee no longer has the money. He can't shop at his old workplace. He can't shop at any of the local businesses. That's, let's say, how much do you think you spend on food a year? What, we spend a couple thousand? What, like 1 month you would spend, what, like $1,000 on groceries? All the businesses in that area just lost that $1,000. And that might not seem like a lot, but for mom and pop shops that are in that area, like small little health shops. Like in my area, we have this one small little farm stand, and it's homegrown foods. But nobody can afford it if you can't work, so that store that depends on every single cent, unlike Walmart that couldn't care less if they lost $700, this company, if they lose, you know, $100 in 1 month, that's a loss to them because they're depending on it. So you're messing up the entire economy by fucking with not only your employees, but the consumer. You need to respect everyone, not just the consumers, but the employees too. And my bosses are cool. They're like, yeah, we have a very diverse workplace. I have several fellow employees who are of different beliefs. My one employee friend is religious, and me and her actually have, like, debates in the pharmacy. We sit there and we have, like, these chill debates about what the Bible actually means. And we're not mean to each other, it's just normal conversation to us, and my boss will jump in and be like, wait, there are churches that tax you for going to church? Like, I had to explain to my boss that, yes, there are churches that take money from your paycheck, because she didn't know that.
The Mormons.
So, like, while we were... So, yeah, that's my take. There's my rant.
Now that Jen's had a rant, do we have any comments before I switch to the topics? Because I have one last statement, and I'm switching to the
I
topic.
think all is ranting, I speak reading. We have nothing there. Let me check this page real quick. I talk with my hands a lot, don't I?
I didn't notice. I was just kind of getting lost in the power of Satan. I saw him stand behind you like 3 times, and it was like, oh shit. Gary, I was wrong about everything. Hell Satan, hell Hydra.
Alrighty then. I'm not seeing any comments, so let me just say this right now. Anyone have any comments? Anyone going to message me? No? Can we move on to the next topic? Is there another?
Well, I had one last thing. Just to explain why I was split, it's because I'm a business owner myself, and so there's like times where I see people that, again, like I want to discriminate against people who discriminate against other people, and then I also don't want the discriminatory people to be able to discriminate against people. So that's why I'm kind of like split between it, because there's like there is this very hypocritical side of me. It's like, I don't want you to discriminate, so I'm gonna discriminate against you. Now, do I do that? No, but there's a real big part of me that's like, it'd be worth it. Anyway, next time, smoking that good cushion alcohol.
Apparently I'm damned. I don't know what I'm damned for, and I was preaching. I was not aware that I was doing any of that.
Preaching for Satan. But next topic being, what are your feelings on sexuality in general? Do you feel like sexuality is always a fixed thing? Like if you're born or whatever, and you happen to be gay, you're gay, and that's like, there's nothing that kind of moves that. or when you're bi, and there's no, regardless of who you end up staying with and being committed to, there's no getting rid of that. I'm just, like I said, I was just curious, what are y'all's feelings on it? I kind of want Jen to go first on this one, just because when it comes to sexuality, I'd like the person who's not as just bland as me and Gary to go.
Okay, so let me explain why I'm bisexual. Yes, I am attracted to women. There is just something about them. Like, if I see a really pretty chick walk by me, like, I have standards. She can't be, like, I don't know, I have standards. I have this idea of what I like. And when I see someone walk by me, I'm like, I'm going to talk to her. And then if I find out that she's that way, I'm going to talk to her more. And I'm completely okay with this. But the same thing can be said for a guy. I've been with both. I've been screwed over by both. So I'm not doing this because guys screwed me over. No, that's not what I'm doing. I don't hate men and that's why I like girls. No, I just like them. I like cuddling with a girl. I like kissing a girl. But at the same time, I like to cuddle with a guy and I like kissing him too. It just, my brain says it's okay on every level and I get turned on by both. Whether there's something going on up there that I'm not aware of, I don't know, nor do I really care. I'm okay with how I am. But I don't think it's a fixed thing, because I know in my high school, every single one of my female friends said they were bisexual or gay. That was every single one of them. I had 6 friends that I hung out with daily. They were all female except for one guy, and they all said they were gay. Come the end of high school, 2 of us are still dating girls. The rest have either said, oh, well, I was mistaken, or deny that it ever happened, and I actually heard one of my now not high school friends, because she's done some other stuff, say that she never kissed a girl, never dated a girl, none of that ever happened. So I don't think it's a fixed thing at that age. the children, the teenagers that we see going, well, I'm gay and I'm coming out and gay pride. If you're under 21, I honestly don't think your brain has developed enough for you to be completely understanding what you are. The brain is not fully developed until 25. So anyone under 25, I'm like, you're saying this, it can be true, I'm okay with what you're saying, but I don't fully believe you, because once your brain fully develops and everything's running the way it's supposed to, after 25 is when you're going to find your sexuality. People who are like 30, 35 and saying, I'm gay, I want to marry my partner, I believe those people. I don't think that it's going to ever change for them, because their brain has gotten to that point where a female will look at another female and go, I want that. Where if they look at a guy, it's like, that's nice, I don't care. At that point, their brain's saying it's okay. But for a 15-year-old, the hormones are still coming into place, the brain is still growing. I can't say for anyone under 25 that it is, in fact, a for sure thing. It's just not even possible, really, for it to be a for sure thing. Now, I'm finishing this rant. Last thought.
No, I'm sorry. I just can't breathe. I'm sorry. That's why.
Okay. Now, for kids who are saying, I'm transgender, I'm a girl stuck in a guy's body, or I'm a guy stuck in a girl's body, that can be a few different things. That can be a psychological issue. Maybe they were abused by a parent. I mean, I've read a few cases in my psychology class where there have been children at the age of 10 who are being abused and said these things, and then later in life, after getting the help they needed, they take back their statements saying, no, I really feel like I was just confused. So again, I can't say for anyone under 25, really, that it's a thing for any of it. I can't say that they're straight, they're transgender. It's just the brain's not there to say for sure. After 25, you can start really looking at it and going, okay, this is a thing. Before that point, it's just not there to be a thing. It's your brain's running on a million different things and growing, and the hormones are firing, and you're going through puberty. You're going to experience a lot of changes in different levels of chemicals in your brain. And what was that? I don't even know what that was. Anyway, ignoring that, because that was not a comment in any of my systems.
With your comment.
So yeah, that's what I feel, that it's just not a thing before age 25, and I can say for sure that I'm bisexual. I feel my brain is there. I'm not going to change my mind. I'm close enough to the point where my brain is fully developed enough for it to be a thing. But for someone at 15, I can't say that it is, and I don't think that they are fully aware of what they're saying at that age. They understand the meaning, but their chemicals aren't there for them to fully understand what their body wants. I'm done preaching.
You're done ranting?
Yeah.
Okay, and like I think I chatted you, I'm going to have to counter that only slightly.
Okay.
I say only slightly because, well, I can't. It's kind of just double-edged. And the only reason I'm really bothered by that just a little bit is probably because I'm the youngest in the group. And, no, what you said was only like a year away from me. I'm not going to say that sexuality is a fixed point, because I can identify, as straight at this point, because other with slight peculiarities, that's what I roll with. But I don't know what I would develop into as a person, so I do understand what you were saying as, it goes on and you continue on until, I won't say a certain age, because there's a certain age for your brain to get there, but there's no real certain age for your realization, your self-realization to get there, because there are people in their 50s that don't figure it out until they're in their 50s.
Well, yeah, but that just goes to show you how their brain developed, whether it is nature over nurture or nurture over nature. Both factors play into how somebody's brain develops. So if at the time they are 20, because Jen is stating scientific facts, your brain is fully developed at 25.
Yeah.
So if their brain didn't develop correctly by the time they turn 25, they're not really going to be able to get out of any sort of mindset that they're in. I mean, that kind of goes back to the old. Once somebody's indoctrinated into something and they get to a certain age, it's harder to have any sort of debate with them or anything because they are completely sold.
Well,
I discovered my atheism at the age of, I started questioning everything when I was young, but I really, really, stuck with me. And once I was 25, it was just solidified, because that's what stuck with me. That's what made sense. Anything ever that would ever change my mind from it is evident.
well, and I didn't know if you just stopped because your mic cut out, so I don't know if you stopped or you were still talking. But I'm not gonna I'm not gonna sit here and debate scientific fact that the brain develops at that it stops like it's fully matured, developmentally wise for the most part at like 25, 24, somewhere in that age range. I can't. Scientific fact within certain bounds. Um, my issue is just like, and I don't know if I had the conversation with one of you guys or someone else. I just know I was talking to people much older than me. that I mean, it's it's the same issue as like maturity wise. There's a lot of people that I know that have been younger than me or older than me that maturely have been ready for sex at different ages. Now, well, I'll say they're completely there, but there's a lot of people I know now that are, because I always deal with older people or people of an older age than me, that were there when they were like 12 and have continued on to the age of 25. Because again, I dealt with people that are like decades ahead of me, and they're perfectly fine. And there are also some people that just weren't personally there. They didn't have that that self-realization and maturity until they got older. I think it's more. I won't say it's more of like development. Development, because the same thing with Gary as far as what he said with his atheism. I think it's more just of self-realization, and when self-realization comes, depends on a person. Me being much younger than everyone in this podcast at the current point in time, I came to my atheism or my questioning. I was questioning very young, like 5 or 6. But you also have to understand I was split because, and this is just a terrible story. I don't know why I'm going to explain this, but because I'm named after a prophet and a saint, my mother had it put in my head there for a minute that like I may have been the reincarnation. Let's just not discuss that ever again. But I was still questioning at a young age, and I was pretty set in it by the time I hit 12. And several years down the line, I'm still set in it. And like you said, the only thing that would provide any sort of change in me would be evidence. You know what I'm saying? Now, how I find that evidence, whatever, but I still go by scientific reasoning. But that was when I came to my self-realization. I feel like self-realization, it just really depends on that person. So when it comes to sexuality, when someone has that epiphany, that moment of self-realization where they understand, like, look, this is who I am, or this is, there were signs, or even there wasn't signs, this is kind of who I am, whatever age that comes at, I think it should be recognized, or it should be given more validity towards when it's an older person compared to a younger person, just because younger people are more impressionable. But I would not discredit necessarily, and again, it depends on who the person is, but I would not discredit, as a general rule, someone's sexuality based on their age past the point of maturity, or past the point of puberty. Because for a lot of people, like there's someone I deal with now, very close friend. He just came out. He's only a year older than me, but he said he was very aware of his dealings for about 6 years now, and he just wasn't he came to that self-realization, and he went out there and tried to deal with the opposite sex. It didn't work out. These feelings these feelings became stronger, and he accepted it for what it is. I also know people that I've known for years now, almost all my life, that are just now coming out because they just now kind of accepted it for what it was, had that self-realization, had that epiphany, and was like what it is. So that's my only issue with gender statements. You can't say that as a basis, because even when the brain stops, even when the brain fully develops, that doesn't really give you a necessary point of self-realization. For some people, that's exactly when it happens, and that's when they kind of figure themselves out for the most part. But even that is odd because you're always changing and evolving as a person. That's why even the very concept of sexuality is weird to me, because regardless of gender, you're loving another person, or you're attracted to another human being, regardless of though you may have your own particularities, you're attracted to another human being. So that's kind of my issue with the whole thing of sexuality. But if we're going to discuss that, I can't say that. And again, it could be because I'm younger. I can't say that when a 15-year-old says they're gay or they're transgender, that they necessarily don't know any better. I'm just going to say that at that point in time, if that's the self-realization they came to and that's who they are at that point in time, then that's how it is. Ooh, kitty. But you can't say that when you hit 25, that's when you know for sure. I can't say that's a blanket statement for everyone. And that's just me. Again, there's a lot more to play into it than just age and brain development. But again, this could be because I'm younger.
Okay, well, I'm going to counter this one, if I may get. That's a cat. I want to kidnap it and make it my child. That's besides the point.
See?
Anyway, see, I look more at sexuality being linked to the hormones and the science behind it. It's possible that someone at the age of 10, when the puberty starts, they start having these thoughts because that's how their brain is headed. And then, the brain can self-correct or do whatever, and it gets going to a proper flow that is stereotypical of the human race, of what a mammal normally has, which is the reproduction needs to happen because animals need to live. Our brain isn't a thinking thing, it is a piece of an organ that is designed to keep us alive. So its whole purpose, well, yes, we have personalities, we have all this. The human brain has this whole frontal lobe that decides personality. The rest of our brain is self-consciously going, I need to do A, B, and C so I continue to live. So being straight is kind of the norm because the brain is programmed to want to procreate. Now, because of overpopulation, culture, defects in hormones due to inbreeding issues, I mean, let's think about this. A couple 100,000 years ago, there was less everything on the planet. We've continued to breed over and over again. We're now up to 7 billion people. We're going to start finding, possibly in our own species, these differences that are occurring because we've overbred ourselves. I mean, our planet wasn't meant to hold 7 billion people. We're already discovering the issues with that, with the overpopulation. So whether that's playing a part into everything, whether it's just a natural occurring issue inside the brain's natural production, whatever it is, I mean, it doesn't make you a bad person, and it doesn't make anything wrong with you. It just means that your brain is producing these hormones so you feel this, because your hormones play a huge part into your feelings. So whatever your brain is saying is what you're going to go with. And at 10, you can start to feel that, and you might be somewhat aware of it.
Mm-hmm.
But after 25 is when the brain's fully going full blast. You're getting all these hormones, and those are going to be the hormones you get, unless you change with medications. There could be a good possibility some of these people who aren't coming out till later in life may have been on something, hormones and foods that affected their brain's production that kept them from producing the certain amount of hormones they need to be gay versus straight. There's a whole science behind this, and honestly, the science behind it's not understood. Scientists are just now starting to look at the brain, look at the hormones, and try and figure out why. Not that it's a problem, but we're humans. We want to know why. Why is this occurring? And that's just, it's such a misunderstood field. Like, even my psychology teacher, because we bring this up constantly, she's like, I've asked people who study evolutionary psychology, they don't have a straight answer. The best guess they have
Straight answer.
Yeah, it's a thing. It's psychology based on what you're...
Oh, I was just talking about sexuality, and you said straight answer, but that we can go scientifically, too. That's fine. I can stop being immature for a second.
But, like, we don't have an answer for this thing. The brain is already a enigma. Things happen. There is a case of a woman in China born without a whole piece of her brain. Her brain's compensating just fine. She's living like she has that part of her brain, when that shouldn't even be taking place, because she shouldn't have any motor skills because that piece is missing, but her brain developed that way anyway. So with sexuality, it plays into the hormones, it plays into what's going on in your head, what you're doing, and that's what it comes down to. Your personality is affected by your hormones. There was a case where a guy was smashed in the face with a pole and it took out part of his frontal lobe. He went from being a sweet guy that everybody liked to a total asshole that people wanted to shoot in the face, just because part of his brain was injured. So your brain controls your personality, your feelings. You might like this because you like it, but it comes back to your brain is saying to do this because the hormones and pieces of your brain are saying to do it, not because you have some magical thing up there that says to do it. I'm done ranting. Gary, you want
Well,
to
I see, like, now I want to counter it, but I'm sure Gary is finna complain. Yeah, well, see, this is a conversation I kind of wanted to have because I understand where you're coming from, and I'm not going to deny that hormones and evolutionary processes and all that play a factor into this, and I'm going to try to, wrap it up really quick. It's just that I look at the brain more like once you get past evolutionary systems that have been set in place, the brain is a blank slate, and it continues to evolve. That's why even when you get older, though it may be harder to learn new things, you can learn new things past the time your brain just fully develops. So I look at it from, and this is just me personally, I look at it from two sides. You can't simply say that it's all experience driven and religion and all this other stuff, and you cannot say that it's just hormones. And that's what I'm stating when I say, because I agree when you're saying that just because a person feels it at 10 or whenever puberty starts, because I know some people start early or late. I'm stating that we can't use 25 as the definite standpoint because there are so many different factors that go into it and so many different things that can affect people as they evolve as a person until, their death.
But anyway, what I was trying to say is the point, of course you can learn things after the age of 25. Of course. There's people that go to college at 40 and whatever. That's not the point. The point is who you're going to be as a person is developed by the age of 25.
And my point when I brought up the learning things is that I can't say that's necessarily true. Who you are for the most part, like core values, most part is set by them, but they can still change. It has happened. And it is, we can't rule it as a possibility of saying it's 25, like, that never happens. No one has ever changed who they are as a core person past that point.
Okay, but you're pointing out anomalies when you're going by peer-reviewed scientific fact. You're pointing out anomalies of, this one person used to murder people, but they went to prison for a long time, and now they don't do it anymore.
Well, no, I'm not saying that, like, I didn't state that. I stated that the scientific fact is true, though.
You're pointing out anomalies amongst humanity at large. And that's fine. I understand what you're coming from. However, the point is, by the time you're 25 years old, you're going to know whether or not gay, straight, bi, whatever.
Well, I can't see. You say anomalies, and my only issue with anomalies is it's a generalizing statement when we live in many cultures, many widespread cultures where a lot of things are forced to be repressed. So though a person may know this, they can't express it, and so you can peer review a large group of people, but there may be an even larger group of people considering of how many people there are that exist on this planet.
Okay, if you're making the statement that people are able to quote unquote learn things after they're 25, then your statement is going to the argument that homosexuality is a choice.
No, I didn't say that. When I said they can learn things, I was pointing that out as a point to state that the brain can evolve as a person. When I say learn things, I was just bringing that as a point that the brain can evolve. The brain does evolve and learn and twist and bend to each different experience and activity and this, that, and other and stimulant. And that it's you can't necessarily say. And I guess I worded when I brought up the learning things, it was not the best example, but I was simply saying that if the brain controls your personality and this, that, and the other, basically the core of who you are, if that can change and continue to change upon your death, barring unforeseen circumstances like Parkinson's and other things, which is just another form of change, just a negative one, then there's no way to simply say that and make the blanket statement, in my opinion, that at 24, 25, that's when it's just set in stone. Now, am I saying that the brain? I'm not saying that the brain doesn't develop, doesn't stop, like structurally and all the synapses or whatever developing, but that's just simply the brain's wiring working right, just the synapses going this, that, and the other. The information that's being sent and the information that's traveling can be changed and can develop.
Okay,
In my opinion, I'm saying in my opinion.
For argument's sake, any change you make after the age of 25 to yourself is therefore a choice, correct?
Not necessarily.
Guys, I have the textbook.
You can't. I'm saying not necessarily because you have to. I'm taking in the broader effect of environmental things that can't be controlled.
Guys.
Things that you're in the wrong place or the right place at the right time or wrong time, and you just happen to see them, and it plays into who you are. It affects you in some way.
This is starting to become like an eternal debate here for.
Guys, can I just point out what the textbook says? I have the textbook. I went and got it.
Okay, Tachika.
So, basically, I brought up the chapter on lifespan development. What the textbook says, at 25, the brain is there. However, you can connect, disconnect, and reconnect pieces of your brain. So if you learn to play the piano at 4 and you stop playing it by the age of 14, you can relearn that skill at 30 easier than someone that's never played. You can learn things and make changes to the brain, but it is harder, difficult, and is an absolute choice to change after that because you are actively having to do it. Your brain is not naturally connecting. You have to train it. Before 25, your brain is taking in everything. Change the page. Is taking in everything and is saying, well, I'm opening passages for this, this, and this. The folds of your brain are there so that information can travel. But 425, it takes in everything. After that point, it starts cutting away the dead pieces it feels you will never use again. So if you learn to play the clarinet at 3 and you will never use that skill the rest of your life, that skill's for the most part gone. Your brain cuts ties to that little spot of information. So after 25, a majority of what you do is an active choice because your brain's already made the connection. And sexuality is connected to the hormone system and connected to the reproductive system, which is run solely off of hormones and has almost no connection to the frontal lobe. I have no idea what you just said.
Yeah, I'll just cut it off of this. For the sake of just ending this sake, just like everything else, I have my opinions. I've stated that they are just opinions because, let's be honest, half the time I don't know shit. But, I mean, take it for what you will and whatever opinion you have on it. the whole at the end of the day, because this whole conversation was about homosexuality and then LGBTQ issues and things related to such, how would you live your life? In my opinion, and I'm sure the opinions of the other two people here, how would you live your life? You choose to do things or whatever in the hell, as long as you're not harming another person, you're not seriously harming yourself, and there is consent between you and however other many parties, it doesn't fucking matter.
Okay.
I can go for that as long as you're happy and not harming anyone.
So next Wednesday, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Next Wednesday, time will be updated on obviously Atheist Jesus. Those who are in the group and elsewhere watching this, we will update you on the time. I hope you enjoyed the conversation. I hope none of us got too preachy for you, and we hope that you come back. Don't forget to like and subscribe and share with all your peoples. I'm Reverend Meadows. I'm finna leave and go watch clown midget porn. Gary's probably gonna go pass out because that's what old people do. And I think Jen is gonna go sacrifice the cat that keeps pissing her off to Satan.
Fuck no, that's my son. No.
Well, I just know that, like, at the beginning of the podcast, that little motherfucker was pissing you off.
And he's my child. He's going to do that. I accept the fact that he's
God
a
told-
who
God
likes
told-
to
I
attack
don't
you in
even
the
remember
middle
the
of the
dude's
night.
name. If God can have someone sacrifice his son, you can sacrifice yours.
I refuse to sacrifice my child. I will not do that no matter how much of an asshole he is. Besides, he's sleeping. No, I'm gonna probably light some candles,
And go to sleep.
do some fuckery, read my psychology textbook that I actually have to do for homework on Tuesday. And yeah,
Well, if you guys can actually hear me, I'm not going to go pass out. I'm actually going to go spend time with my children, do stuff that my admin job. So,
Well, I actually need to talk to you for like 2 minutes after the podcast because it's about your mic issue. But anyway, in all honesty, though, I hope you guys enjoyed the podcast. The next one will be Wednesday, and of course, we have them Wednesdays and Saturdays. I think Saturdays will remain secular Saturdays unless something else pops up, and Wednesdays, thusly being named Wicked Wednesdays, as of the first Wicked Wednesday, will remain so unless we all decide otherwise. Have a good night / morning or afternoon wherever you are. We're going to get out of here.